Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaura Pimanandi, Dayam Vishupada Paramahamsa, Privraj Gashajastu Tarasata, Sri Simar, His Divine Grace, Hirabai Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, ISKCON BBT, Founder His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki, Jani Thai Gaura Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Takshurandiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Astapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Sakanvitam Duscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the Supermost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class, reading from second canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, entitled The Lord in the Heart. And today we are reading text number 19, 1-9. Itam Munis tu paramed Vyavastito Vijnana Drig Virya Suranditas Shayaha Swa Pasni Napidya Gudam Tato Anilam Staneshu Satchunamayej Jita Klamaha. Itam Monistu Paramed Vyavastito Vijnana Drigvirya Suranditasya Swaparsninapidya Gudam Tato Nilam Staneshu Satsunnameyaj Jita Klamaha. Itham munistu paramed vyavastito. Vijnana drigvirya suranditashayaha. Swaparsnina pidya gudam tato nilam. Staneshu satsunamayaj jita klamaha. Itham munistu paramed vyavastito. Vijnana drigvirya suranditashayaha. Sapasnina pidya gudam tato nilam. Staneshu shatsu namayaj jita klamaha. Itham munistu paramed vyavastito. Vijnana drigvirya suranditashayaha. Swapasnina pidya gudam tato nilam. Staneshu satsu napayaj jita klamaha. Itham. Thus by Brahman realization, Munihi, the philosopher, too, but Uparamit should retire. Vyavastitaha, well situated. Vijnanadrik, by scientific knowledge. Virya, strength. Surandita, well regulated. Ashayaha, aim of life. Saparsnina, with the heel of one's foot. Apidya, by blocking. Gudam, the air hole. Tataha, thereafter. Anilam, life air. Staneshu, in the places. Satsu, six primary. Unamayat, must be lifted. Jita klamaha, by extinguishing material desires. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. By the strength of scientific knowledge.
By the strength of scientific knowledge.
First I will read. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the six primary places. Kindly repeat after me. By the strength of scientific knowledge,
by the strength of scientific knowledge.
One should be well situated
One should be well situated
in absolute realization
in absolute realization
and thus be able
and thus be able
to extinguish all material desires.
to extinguish all material desires.
One should then give up
One should then give up
the material body
the material body
by blocking the air hole
by blocking the air hole
through which stool is evacuated
through which stool is evacuated
with the heel
with the heel
of one's foot,
of one's foot,
and by lifting the life air
and by lifting the life air
from one place to another
from one place to another
in the 6 primary places.
in the 6 primary places.
Purport. There are many duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman and yet are unable to conquer material desires. In the Bhagavad Gita 1854, it is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living being and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature, and by his desire to lord it over the resources of the 5 elements. With such a mentality, one is led to believe in the strength of material science with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles, and by such tiny advancement in material science, the false egoistic, the false egoist tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all man's tiny endeavors in less than a second. The well-situated self, or Brahman realized soul, perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman, or the personality of Godhead, is the all-powerful Vasudeva, and that he, the self-realized living being, is a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him, the Lord, in all respects, in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. The Lord is described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the spiritual master is described as the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. And all of us actually are meant to become ideal servants. Those self-realized souls, they are described as being the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. They are ideal servants in which we should be following. So this point is being made here. The constitutional position of the living entity is to cooperate with the Lord in all respects in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. That is our swadharma. Jiver swarubhoy Krishner nityadas. Such a self-realized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activity of attempting to lord it over material energy. Again and again, the living entity, conditioned living entity, is trying to lord it over, failing every time, still trying again and again. A self-realized soul therefore ceases to exhibit such useless activities of attempting to lord it over material nature. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in faithful devotion to the Lord. There's a second paragraph here. Prabhupada is addressing in this first paragraph the aspect of material desires, how we must do away with or extinguish all material desires if we want to go back home, back to Godhead. And that is the meaning of self-realization. Anyabhilasita shunyam, without any material desire. And the second portion of the purport, Prabhupada will deal with other aspect here in the translation regarding the yogi and leaving his body by controlling the life air. The expert yogi who has thoroughly practiced the control of the life air by the prescribed method of the yoga system is advised to quit the body as follows. He should plug up the evacuating hole with the heel of the foot and then progressively move the life air on and on to 6 places: the navel, abdomen, heart, chest, palate, eyebrows, and cerebral pit. Controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical, and the practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. In olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalist, for the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in modern days, when the influence of Kali age is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. Translation again. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places. So the first portion of the text dealing with how to extinguish material desires. And the instruction being given here is when one becomes well situated in transcendental knowledge. So it means that if someone is not having this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, if one is not understanding his actual position as an eternal spirit soul and becoming firmly fixed in that knowledge, then one cannot give up material desires because one will still be on the bodily platform. So we, in Krishna consciousness, we practice bhakti, devotion, because we come to know from Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is a person and that we are meant, being His part and parcel, we are meant to be engaged in His service. The idea of the servant and the Lord, the master and the servant. That is the natural constitutional position of the living entity. So this is the recommended process for doing away with all material desires. We replace material desires by spiritual desires, isn't it? Yeah. So this is the cultivation of the science, the science of devotional service. The second portion of the translation is dealing with what Prabhupada refers to as the mechanical process of that yogis used to practice. Some yogis in modern day, our modern day world, also trying to practice. As Prabhupada explained, this is a actually more difficult process, especially in Kali Yuga, and therefore it is not the recommended process. Yoga initially can help one to become more relaxed, more controlled, but as Prabhupada mentions at the end of the purport, it is in Kali Yuga extremely difficult. It is not the recommended process. What is more easily taken up is the chanting of the holy name, accompanied by, practical activities of devotional service. So those who are not fortunate to have this knowledge, just like nowadays, there is a lot of talk about raising consciousness. People's consciousness is being changed, I would say positively. People speak about what is called, we are living in a three-dimensional world, isn't it? We see past, present, and we are aware of past, present, and future. Majority of people in the three-dimensional world, we are basically interacting or seeing what we see. But actually, there's more than what we see, isn't it? Just like we don't see our mind, our intelligence, but we know it is there. So there is more than just this material level, gross level. Majority of people are on that level. They call it the 3D level, three-dimensional. Then there's a fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional that people are speaking about nowadays. how to go beyond the immediate gross body. But unless one comes to the transcendental knowledge given in the Vedic literatures, one will remain even on these higher level of consciousness on the mental platform. So therefore the importance of hearing from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So those are the two important instructions being given here in the text this morning. This is referred to also as scientific knowledge. The knowledge presented in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is a real scientific knowledge, in that it is dealing and explaining not only what is on the material physical level, but also explaining and dealing with what is on the supernatural level or spiritual level. What Prabhupada would refer to in his book. Before going to America, Prabhupada came out with wrote this book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. Right? And many people became interested. Oh, very nice title. Easy Journey. How can I easily go to other planets? So, the process, there is a process. There's a process to go to other planets in the material world, and there is a process to go to planets in the spiritual world. There are many planets in the material world. Just like people like to travel so many countries on this planet, and in the last century, 20th century, traveling became very easy. Practically everyone could fly. But traveling to other countries is not the perfection of life. Even traveling to other planets is also not the perfection of life. We must know that there are planets beyond the material world. They are called Vaikuntha Planets. One verse was describing this a few days ago. And that within those Vaikuntha Planets there's one very special, very unique planet, which is Krishna's planet, or Krishna Loka. So in the Bhagavad Gita it mentions that once having gone or traveled to those spiritual planets where there is a life of Satchitananda, eternal life of knowledge and bliss, one becomes fully satiated or satisfied and does not have to come back again to this material world. So we'll read the verse translation again. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places, the chakras within the body. Yes. So any question on this? No questions today. Okay.
Maharaj, description about here is
Yes.
one is concentrating on the form of Vishwarupa. Here the description is, but is like looks like the description about the impersonalism, where they gradually uplift that prana
Yeah.
from able to. So both are same or different?
Your question is, we've been reading about the recommendation on meditating on the Vishwarup. And now we're hearing about meditating on, or rather on raising the life air within the body, whether these are the same. They are, if one is, they're similar in that if one is primarily endeavoring to concentrate on, if one takes up this process as described here in the purport in the second chapter of gradually lifting the life air from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. Generally, people who do that are unaware of the absolute truth, and generally fall in the category of impersonalists, because as Prabhupada explained in the second part of the purport, one who is in proper knowledge, one who has received in Guru Parampara knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, knows that actually in Kali Yuga the recommended process is not to follow this yogic practice that used to be followed when the situation was different. That is one thing. And secondly, anyone who receives this transcendental knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Guru Parampara will understand, will come to know about the personal aspect of Godhead, and therefore will not waste one's time in what is referred to here as the mechanical process of practicing yoga. In other words, one will know what is the topmost yoga, which is bhakti yoga, and will basically concentrate on that. Very often, Prabhupada would make that distinction. As devotees, we're not only interested in our own self-realization. Of course, we are interested in self-realization, but we are especially interested in helping others become self-realized. Traditionally, yogis would concentrate and be more focused on their own, attainment of mukti or liberation. Whereas in our Vaishnava line, the emphasis is given on giving an opportunity to as many people as possible to cultivate this knowledge by which not only I can attain liberation from this material world, but all other living entities, or as many living entities as possible, can attain liberation from the modes of material nature, and can attain the ultimate goal or objective of life, which is to develop our love for Krishna. So that's an important difference. Generally, people who are more concentrated on their individual personal practices are more like, I would say, ego-centered on themselves. Whereas a devotee is that's the special characteristic as described in the Bhagavatam, Titikshava, Karunika, Sarva, Suridam, Sarva Dehinam. The three primary qualities of a Vaishnava is that Titikshika, he is very tolerant. Karunika, he is full of compassion for the suffering of other living entities. And Suridam, Sarva Dehinam, just like the Lord is described as the well-wisher of all living entities. And so a Vaishnava is also the well-wisher. He is in knowledge, he is understanding that the best way that one can help others is by giving them this understanding, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, this knowledge of devotional service. Yeah. So we will close here this morning. Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Pimananti.